I'm Rob from Barefoot Gaming, and today we review the MAG P90 for the HTC Vive. Really feels like we need some kind of epic intro for this. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's get to the actual review of this thing. The MAG P90, as you can see, is a plastic housing for the HTC Vive. It's designed and built to have the Vive controller sit directly inside, and it's what becomes your controller. I've seen posts dedicated on Reddit to building your own controller for games like Onward or any first-person shooter where you're holding a gun and where you want something to actually lean up against your shoulder to give you stability while you're moving around. My first thought taking this out of the package was that this is incredibly light. Now I saw that as a negative, and it isn't. I had thought, well, if it's light, it probably isn't built very well. It is actually built really well. This thing is tough. It doesn't feel cheap. The lightness is a major bonus because as you're playing any games in VR, the longer you're holding your hands up to keep your gun up, a heavy object is not fantastic to have here. So almost all your weight is derived from your controller itself, but don't let that fool you. Like I said, this is built pretty tough. You don't really have to worry about breaking it easily. It's not something that you can squeeze and feel give. It is built of ABS and it's built strong. It's just light, which, as I said, turns out to be a positive. There isn't really much to the controller itself aside from the shape. The shape is shaped like a P90, kind of. It's smaller. You'll notice there is a button in the one side, and all that does is turn the light off and on. So this is a function that's really only beneficial to those watching you play VR. I can see the light being something cooler. Let's say if you're running a VR arcade, this gun looks pretty neat. So when you light them all up, it's like, ooh, that looks kind of futuristic. Doesn't really have a bonus aside from aesthetics though. That light is just to make it look pretty. There is no force feedback. This is just an ABS peripheral that holds your HTC Vive controller. And this would be something exclusively right now just for the Vive. One of my concerns before arrival was whether I would lose the ability to touch the trackpad to change weapons, to function through the different menus, the button on the top, the button on the bottom, whether I'd still be able to get at them. And thankfully, there is actually enough room. You don't lose any of that functionality. Something I should mention is I am 6'1" and I find the stock to be a little bit short. So when I'm holding it up against my body and I'm aiming, I feel like it would be a little more comfortable if it was a little bigger, but honestly, I don't really have much experience with real-world assault rifles, so maybe this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I was using my second hand separately, especially in games like Payday 2, for example. In Payday 2 VR, you're using this to move around, you're using this to interact, to shout down people. I found it just as easy to hold the controller and the gun to do my aiming, and it actually looks like you're doing exactly that in game 2. Now, games obviously will vary but I found it pretty realistic to fit it up against here. Keep in mind, you can't really look down this thing properly, but when you're wearing your HTC Vive and you've got your head like this, it does line up exactly right. So it gives you that experience that you're holding a real gun in the game. This thing goes for $199.99 US. That's shipped to your door, and that's not cheap. That's a relatively pricey peripheral. However, we talked them down, so if you give them the code BFG MAG P90. So again, I'll try to put this in the description as well. BFG MAG P90. They'll give you $50 off. And that is again shipped to you. So that brings you to $149.99, which is again still not a cheap peripheral, but $50 off, 25% off your whole purchase. I mean, I'm a little proud that we were able to offer that to you. My first thought seeing this is this would go really well with virtual arcades. Something where people aren't experienced with VR and they want to feel something more than just a floating gun that's sitting around. Plus, again, it looks pretty cool. Whether the price is worth the value of the product is something I can't speak to. That's something you're gonna have to make up your own mind on. It is, like I said, a pricey peripheral, but it's a quality peripheral in the sense that it is built well. This thing, you can squish it, it can't twist, it's built solid, and it's light. So like I said, for extended sessions, it feels really good. I found myself, I was pushing too hard into my shoulder which was making my bicep tired, but that's not their fault, that's mine, and that's something I just get used to the more I play this. That's it. I don't really think there's more to talk about in here. I've told you what it feels like. I've told you what kind of discount you can get if you give them the code. Again, I'm gonna mention it's BFG Mag P90, because I'd be really disappointed to find out that anyone's ordered this and didn't save the $50 US on this. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see what's coming out, if you want to see peripherals, if you want to see games, everything virtual reality related, Barefoot Gaming's got your back. Thank you again so much for watching. Talk to you later. See ya.